Hi, my name is Marisa Wilson, and this is AI for GenX, a podcast where we break down what AI is just for normies like you and me. What I'm hoping is you're going to take me outside, go walk your dog, go take your child or your grandchild to the park, just go touch some grass. It's okay to learn about AI and still be absolutely human. I am here just to help you understand what it is in a very, very basic way. We are not doing any kind of deep dive into anything too technical, but I think it helps to understand it so that it doesn't become something that you shy away from, because the genie is out and he is not getting back in that bottle. It's okay to be a little bit concerned about it. You'll soon see it's kind of fun and a thing that everybody should at least have an understanding. So that's what I do. What my process is I will write a Substack. That's just an article or a blog post, basically. Substack is a tool. People use it to write. They can also do video, podcasts, etc. But it's a great way to just find out information if you're interested. So with any of these podcasts, what I plan to do is just write my article, have all the links, and then just do a short podcast that verbally talks about it, because I know if you're like me, I don't want to read a bunch of stuff. I've got things to do all day long, but I don't mind putting you on in my car. And so that's the point of the podcast. What we're going to do today is just step one. This is something I did with my friends, my high school friends, the Yaya Sisterhoods. And I had a meeting and said, hey guys, let me tell you what I know. And it sets the groundwork for how you use AI in the future. It makes it less scary. And for some, it was just an aha moment of, oh, okay, I got it. Really quickly on the evolution of AI, it's been around for years, since the 1950s. It has a lot of logic and rules already. We used it, even things like when we played Pac-Man, that was AI. But what has happened since 2017, there was this thing called transformer architecture that really changed the way that data was predicted. I don't know the technical aspects of it all, but just know that it did change. The other thing that was huge that changed is that there was the internet, because what had happened in the past, what they call these AI winters, they didn't have enough data for these models to be as good as they are now. Three companies ended up scraping all of the digital data, all the internet, all the publicly available, sometimes copyrighted content to create their data models. And that's why it's so good right now. That's why we didn't have it years ago. It's just getting better and better, but it's because we not only have the logic behind it, but we also have the data. So what is it? This one really helped me. If you can think of it as just math. All it is math. They assigned a number to words and colors, and then fed all the digital data in there and found the predictable patterns. If you can imagine the sentence, the apple is blank, in all of their patterns, they're not finding a pattern that says the apple is potato, right? The apple is red, maybe the apple is delicious. Those are all patterns that they can see. So if they start doing more and more of these recognizable patterns, they can start predicting language. What it's doing is just predicting natural language. There are three companies that have what they call foundational models. I like to think of them as just the blobs of data. And that is OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google. Brief history on how they started. OpenAI, a nonprofit trying to these really intelligent models for the good of humanity. Sam Altman comes from a Y Combinator background, and he was ready to launch it and scale it and get it out the door and move fast. One of the people working within OpenAI, Dario Amodei, worked on the actual functionality of the models that they have. He was like, they needed to put safeguards behind it. He wanted to implement some humanity into it, basically. So he left OpenAI and started his own company called Anthropic. And they too build models. And then on the third is Google. There was a man named Demis Hassabis. He was with DeepMind, really bright person. Even got a Nobel Prize in chemistry for creating an AI that figured out protein folding, which was transformational in mRNA vaccines, for example. And he's really interested in solving intelligence itself. Google quickly snatched him up and said, this guy is our guy. He's really bright. And then Demis, I think, understood that in order to solve intelligence, you're going to have a lot of money, a lot of compute. And Google provided that with them. I have another article on that if you're more interested, but basically those are the three foundations. So you may be asking, what about Copilot? Microsoft has Copilot. What's that? Copilot is Microsoft's AI assistant, but it's built on the apps that you're already using on Word, Excel. It has a functionality within those apps. It also uses AI models like ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini. So it's not its own model. It's kind of a combination of the models. There's other models. Grok is Twitter or Elon Musk's X model, and also based on digital data like the other foundational models, but also relies heavily on data coming from Twitter. And then Facebook has Llama. And you may have also heard Perplexity. Perplexity works a little bit like Microsoft Copilot, where it combines all of the different models, and it's really a AI search engine. All of them a little bit different. It is very, very expensive to maintain these models, to train these models. And I think really those three foundational companies right now are the only ones going to move forward with that deep level of content just because it is so expensive. Where does all this compute happen? When you're talking to and it's processing its information or its intelligence, it is going back into data centers. So if you can imagine, a ton of computers are in these giant warehouses, and anytime you're pinging it, it is computing and it is processing, and it is very, very hot because these data centers have a lot of churning that is happening. And that is really why they need a lot of energy to run. They need cooling mechanisms. And you'll start hearing about data centers in space. Data centers are already in the ocean. China's doing this. Data centers will be our new utility. AI itself will be like electricity, like the internet. Everybody will be using it. We will need it. The amount of electricity necessary to get to the level when everybody's using it, they're not there yet, and so they are racing forwards to get there. I think the tools themselves will figure out more efficient ways to compute so they don't have to have so much energy, and other ways to cool. All of that technology does exist, but that's really why you're hearing the data centers. They're growing fast and furious, and not always in the US. Some helpful terms that you might be hearing, you keep hearing me say models. OpenAI and Anthropic and Google, they have models. And I like to think of them as just big blobs of data that is being manipulated to make sense. Within those models, you can have little mini models, if you will. And maybe one model is really, really good at researching, and they train it in that way. And maybe it uses more compute to figure things out. And so it's more expensive to access those models. Maybe in the free versions of the tools that you use won't get to those deep level models. They even have models for image generation. Google's really good at this. They're really big into multimodal. And multimodal just means it can be used in text, video, images. But there's a model itself that is training in images, because you can imagine it's a little different to train the creation of an image versus the creation of words. Then prompts. You might have heard of that term if you haven't used it already. It's just a way to naturally talk to the AI and get what you want. In most cases, it is just natural language. Why they called it prompt engineering beats me, because if they would have just said, and we are going to talk to it like a human, and this is how you get your information, then people wouldn't be scared away of prompt engineering. Prompt engineering just is being really effective and good at communicating so that, one, you're not costing so much compute power when you're going to request that information. Two, you get to the data that you need. Once you start using the tools, you'll start getting better at prompting, but that's all it is. And then you may hear the word token. A token is roughly the equivalent of a word, and they will use it to just say how many tokens can this model remember? Or when a software engineer is building code, how many tokens did he use to get to his answer? Because they can measure the tokens, they can say, okay, they are using AI a lot, etc. But it's roughly equivalent to a word. Tokens can be used to help price things out or denote how much of a memory window something has. Okay, so now when you know what prompts is, very quickly again, we're going to a deeper one in a different podcast, but some things that you want to keep in mind when you're prompting these systems is that you're going to want to stick to one task. per chat group. I think when I started using it, I was still using it in the Google search fashion. And I thought that if I could ask it something and ask it something else, I would know it was different. And so I would be asking something about a golden retriever and then something about Guatemala, and they would be so confused. Keep the conversation about that one chat box to that one topic. That's how it knows what to do. You can ask it deeper questions, but it's helpful to understand new chats need to be created for your new question. You can't keep on asking different questions within the same chat because it's not going to make sense. The other thing to note, it's not Google. I mean, it's not a Google search. You're not entering and then just getting something back and then going on your merry way. It works best if you converse with it. So if you're asking it to give you some information, you're going to converse with it back and say, no, I need it in this fashion, or tell me more about this. You can even ask it to help you write the prompt. If you remember, it is expensive to send a question out to and have the data centers compute all that information. So if in one sentence you can be very, very efficient and give it a role and the task and what you want and what you don't want and in what format you want, you're going to be a better answer. Always push back and always have a very effective prompt. You'll get better at it as you play with it more. What I like to do is I'll tell it to ask me a question. So if I say, before you answer, ask me 5 questions so that I can make sure that you and I are on the same page. Prompting is actually kind of fun, especially if you're really good at communicating. And I think our GenX generation is really good at communicating. So this part you'll find fun. You'll start understanding that your relationship with AI is going to grow. And what that means is maybe right now you're just curious and you're just popping in to all of those models have free versions. You're popping in, asking a question, and going back out. And then you start using it a little bit more. And then maybe it's going to be a helpful assistant and getting some actual work done. Like, oh, well, help me create this recipe for Christmas dinner. And then maybe it'll start becoming a trusted advisor. Like, I use this a ton for my AI research or helping me know how to write. Then you may grow into a working partner level, which I feel like this is where I'm at. Whenever I write my Substacks, I write in my voice. I could ask it to be my editor and help me write better, but not write for me. I feel every day when I'm writing with it, it is my editor sitting at my desk and it is pushing me to go further. And that's really what you want. You don't want the AI to replace you. You want the AI to augment you or assist you. And then the final one is the team you never had. We won't cover it in this one, but the AIs are getting so good that now they have what they call agentic, and it is able to do things for you. In the morning, you could set it to automatically review your emails, give you a summary, set up your next calls, etc. All very exciting stuff. I think what is helpful is that you start having a mind shift. You might be thinking of, how did I do this before AI and how do I do this now? For example, if I needed to write an email to a client, before I would sit there for 20 minutes trying to think of what to say. Now you can use the AI, describe what you need, and in 2 minutes it writes back something. It's not meant to replace your critical thinking. Of course, you're always going to need to know what to think, but it does make you more efficient. Or maybe, for example, before AI, you spent a weekend Googling pricing strategy. You have a new product that you're building and you're trying to figure out what to price it at. With AI, you tell it your cost and you say, go research my pricing strategy, and boom, 5 seconds later, maybe 30 seconds later, it gives you your pricing strategy. It is helpful to start having an understanding of how you did things before and how you could do things differently now with the added help. You're not going to get to that level if you're not using it. So the very first step is for you to get in there and start using it. When I talked to my friends about it, for them it was a little bit useful if I went through different types of things it could do because I didn't think they could do. So for example, with Gemini and with Claude, you can have it summarize. If you connect the Google Workspace with it, which is easy and free, and even the free versions carry some level of this, you can ask it to summarize the emails that came in yesterday and tell it to give you your action items. And it is unbelievably good at summarizing it, giving you action items. It could just know what to do. Let's say you scribbled your to-do list, or you have a wall calendar of everybody's birthdays and school events. You could take a picture, upload it to the prompt, and say, put this in a list for me and update my Google Calendar, and it will do that. It is so fun to start thinking about the ways that you can use it. I have used it even to fix the magic carpet at the ski school that I work at. It wasn't working. I took a picture of the panel. I said, what could be happening? It helped us troubleshoot it, and it was just amazing. You start realizing how many times you can use it to help, and it's kind of fun. So you can say, make my day go smoothly. I need to be at this location and this location, and I have these things to do. Help me organize my day. And it will even know how to use Google Map to see how far you are. And it's so quick that just within less than a minute, it can schedule your day for you with you just prompting it. So anyway, everything so far that we've talked today is just to get you grounded. Now you have just a basic understanding, and the next podcast will start getting into either detail of certain tools or functionality or something that is, hitting the headlines that you might want to know about. If you like this, thanks for following me along, sharing it with a friend. And together, I think we're going to demystify AI for Gen X because we got this.